Kansas City looked great. They won, and they have another trophy in their freaking trophy shelf locker room area.
Display case.
Whatever it is. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Good Vibes FC. I'm Sam Mewis. I'm coming to you from the Women's Game World Headquarters in Vermont.
And I'm Becky Sauerbrunn, coming to you from Portland, Oregon.
Reba, we're back at it. You and I have just been recording up a frickin' storm this week.
Give the people what they want, and that's just more Sam Mewis.
And more Becky Sauerbrunn. More importantly, it's Halloween time. Are you dressing up as anything?
Well, we have a game on the 1st, so we can't go too hard on Halloween. I do have a couple costumes in the house that I could recycle. My favorite costume was a pirate, and then Zola had a shark costume, and so he went as my pet shark. So that was that's the best couples costume that I've had.
Oh my God, wait, that is so funny because Pat and I went to a Halloween party on Friday and we were both sharks.
Was it one of those full zip up?
What a coincidence. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, he's I'm so comfortable and warm, and I'm in this pirate costume that has a corset and fishnet stockings, and I'm I'm not warm.
No, not warm or comfortable.
Yes.
Wow, what a coincidence. Everybody, we did not plan this, that Zola, Pat, and I potentially are all being sharks.
You know what else happened, Sammy? I went to a neighbor's 2-year-old birthday party, and I'm kind of the recluse. No one sees me around my neighborhood just because of soccer. I'm always gone.
Yeah.
And so it finally worked out that I could go to an event. Sometimes we do street painting, or there's just a gathering, a block party, and I never get to go. So I'm I got to show up to this to this birthday party. So we're walking up, and I was is there a theme for this birthday party? There's always a theme. Is it Finding Nemo? And Zola, in true typical dude fashion, was just there's a theme, but I'm I don't know what it is. I think we're gonna be fine. And we walk up, and everyone is in a costume, in a Halloween costume. It was just a free-for-all. There's kids everywhere. I'm Zola, why do you do this?
It's such a stereotypical thing to say, but Pat is similar. And so I'm just on the train of husbands, boyfriends don't ask for enough details.
Yeah, or they just don't retain the details enough to tell us who actually care about the details.
I want so much detail. I want to be overwhelmed with information.
I want to be prepared.
I am constantly left with questions.
Yeah. Yeah. So I walk into this party and everyone's looking at us. They don't even know who I am because they've never seen me before, really. And I'm
Zola, who's your friend?
Yeah. I'm thanks, Zola. And then everyone's dressed up, but we finally find another couple who's not dressed up hiding in the kitchen. And I was perfect. So we hole up in the kitchen and we just chat to this other childless, costumeless couple.
Well, I love that so much. I'm so glad that we got to talk a little bit about Halloween because we are going to get to another Halloween question later in this podcast. But before we get to more Halloween stuff, we are going to catch everybody up on the women's national team as well as look ahead at their final match at this camp. Then upcoming is the final weekend of NWSL action. We're going to walk you through all of the playoff scenarios, including Becky's Portland Thorns. Plus, there's another rebrand to talk about. The Chicago Red Stars are dropping the red, and we will get to that email from Sarah about Halloween candy. All right, here we go. Let's talk about the U.S. Women's National Team, Becky. 2 games versus Iceland are now in the books. Going into this camp, we had questions about how Emma Hayes, new national team manager, fresh off Olympic gold, would approach this post-tournament camp with 3 games in it. And she seems to be allowing space to look for new creative ideas while also getting the job done. They've won both games 3-1. The first game, there were goals from Alyssa Thompson, Jaden Shaw, and Sophia Smith. And the second game also finished 3-1. We went down 1-0 in the first half it was a crazy Olympico corner kick from Iceland that Casey Murphy kind of mishandled. But then we made a bunch of subs. We started playing really aggressively. Becky, what would you call this formation?
I think it was probably a 3-2-5.
A 3-2-5, a classic soccer formation. Started really pushing for a goal, obviously. Lynn scored a goal, then she assisted a Lindsay Horan tap-in goal. And then Emma Sears, rookie in the NWSL, plays for Racing Louisville. First cap, first goal, rounded it out with the third goal of the night to put us up 3-1. In both games, though, Iceland gave the U.S. a run for their money. Iceland looked, I thought, solid defensively. They threatened our back line a little bit. They just didn't really have the numbers or the quality up top to capitalize more often. But Becky, you and I were both pretty impressed with them.
Yeah, I also really appreciated their feistiness. They came out really physical. They were not intimidated by the U.S. at all. And I definitely respect that because sometimes games are already lost before it started. And that's just like in your mind, you're thinking, oh gosh, we're playing the US, like historically very strong team. And yeah, they were like, nah, we don't really care about that.
Yeah, I know. One thing that you, me, and Pino all commented on in our post-game Do It Live was those little shoves in the back Iceland was giving us, just kind of making it really hard to play and retain composure on the ball. I do want to stick with Iceland for just a second. They looked positive in both games. And so Iceland are coming off a great Euros qualifying campaign that saw them beat Germany earlier this year and secure their spot in next summer's Euros. I think that their performance in these games and their performance qualifying for the Euros early, like, is really speaking to Iceland's recent investment in their program and in the national team. I read some articles and it sounds like multiple factors are contributing to this success. One of them is high quality coaches at the youth level. They're required to have a UEFA B license, which in Iceland are reasonably cheap and accessible. So it sounds like the youth players are being coached really, really well. And then the other main factor that I took away from the article I read was improved facilities. Like, players are now playing on better surfaces, which is enabling more skill development. And they're calling them the turf generation, which I think in our book, we would be like, oh no, I don't want to play on turf. But I do think from a standard of like playing on a bumpy, muddy pitch, playing on smooth turf as a youth player may enable the players to have a better sense of the ball and tactics. Do you agree?
I do. And in Iceland, I'm sure you have to take into account the weather. And so being able to get onto that turf, even if the weather is not great, so you're actually getting more time playing, I'm sure that helps as well.
Yeah, for sure. So basically, I wanted to give a little insight into Iceland's program because I wanted to make it clear that these friendlies were solid tests for us. Iceland is ranked 13th in the FIFA rankings. It's an opponent that we should and we did beat both games, but neither game was a throwaway game that was like just for fun to celebrate our gold medal. We got a lot out of the games. And that kind of brings me to this being a new cycle for us. And Becky, we talked about this in our Do It Live after the game, that this team has actually been building as what feels like a new cycle since post the 2023 World Cup when Twyla Kilgore took over as interim manager. I want to hear a little bit more from you about what we've already seen in this new cycle and what we hope to see grow over the next 2 years leading up to the 2027 World Cup.
Yes, and we typically have like talked about cycles ending after the Olympics. And in this case, you're right. Like, it definitely was a concerted effort after 2023 to kind of refresh the program. And I think you saw that with like roster selection. I think it kind of went younger and it went more dynamic. And I think you could see that at the Olympics, this team over the course of 90 minutes, over the course of 6 games in a short amount of time, could maintain high press defensively. They could maintain like wave after wave of pressure as far as like creating quality chances. I think you saw that there wasn't a lot of turnover as far as like substitutions during the Olympics. And so I think that's something that youth definitely has on the side, is that you have the energy to be able to do that. I think the areas I'd like to see over the next 2 years grow is kind of what I would call like setup play. And we talked a little bit about this last night. It's just like the efficiency in the final third. How can our midfielders, our attackers combine with one another? How can they set each other up on platters? Like, I love tap-in goals. I feel like if you have multiple tap-in goals over the course of, a few games, I think that shows just how well the attack is ticking over, because a tap-in goal, the easiest thing to finish, it means that you've completely broken down the defense. All you have to do is put it into an open net. And so I'd like to see the precision, the setup play, just like, let's get those quality chances, which we already generate a lot of. Can we get them to like a B to an A and repeatedly in the course of a game?
Yeah, what that sounds like to me is like, we're so good at set pieces. Well, historically, we've been so good at set pieces. And we're so good in transition, which is what really shone for us at the Olympics. I think that our transition moments were so world class. What I hear you saying is like, let's say the opponent is set in their defensive shape. They're really organized. Can we, in organized attack, break them down and create quality chances in a calm and composed way that doesn't always rely on transition or set pieces?
Yeah, exactly. Or an individual having to do something brilliant.
So you just want to lean on, well, I think both of us, I think we agree about this. We want to see the team and the team system and the quality of our movement and ball control breaking down organized defenses.
100%.
Oh, that's really, I would love to see that, Becky. I love that. So I want to talk about Sunday night's game in particular, the second game against Iceland. We put out a lineup that had 7 changes from the first game, and we went down a goal. We were trailing going into halftime. We had never trailed under Emma Hayes' reign before this moment. Then during the second half, we subbed in the vets, Lindsay Horan, Lynn Williams, Sophia Smith, come in off the bench. Basically, we tried something that didn't really work, and then the veterans came in and saved the game. It's an overgeneralization, but I'm wondering, Becky, if relying on that is okay, or should we have maybe let the starting group struggle and try to figure it out, as this is good practice for the future?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a balance that the technical staff needs to find, because I do think that you need to give time and grace to these new combinations of players that have a little bit less experience, because there is something to finding a way to get your footing in a game, finding a way to win, that these players need to learn in order for the program to be successful, but also for them as individuals to be successful. You need to read what's being given to you, what's not working, and find solutions in game. And so I think it's difficult because the US, we want to win absolutely everything. And there is pressure from the public and pressure from above that we need to be getting these results. And I think it's great that you can always rely on the tried and true, but I do think you need to find a balance. If we are going to be going younger, which we are, and giving these players their debuts, these new experiences, give them maybe a little bit more time to find their way. It's not unheard of for staff to rely on tried and true. I think back to 2017 Tournament of Nations. We're playing Brazil, and it's kind of a different lineup. We got a couple, you were in this game, so we got a couple different people in the match. I'm playing at 6, which is something terrible must have happened for me to be playing out of position at my center back spot. But we are down 3-1 in a very important tournament. We had just lost to Australia. People were really doubting us. We were starting to be what's going on, guys? We need to figure it out. And then you sub on players like Kristen Press, Sid LaRue, Julie Ertz. And in the 80th minute, we get a goal. 85th minute, 89th. We actually wind up winning this game 4-3 because of those players that you subbed on that have the experience, know how to win games. And so it really is finding a balance. Yeah.
I mean, I think what's tough about it is, had Emma kept the same lineup out that started, and had we lost, we'd be sitting here being what are you doing? Why are you losing this game? You need to sub on your veterans and be competitive and try to win the game. So I feel it is a really interesting balance, Becky. I do remember I played in that game.
You scored a goal.
I actually scored a goal.
Yeah.
But I subbed off to make room for some of these other way more experienced players. And I do think that part of that is I watched from the bench as Julie Ertz changed the game. I watched from the bench as Kristen Press was I'm getting a goal in this game no matter what. And you feel like you contributed to the win, but you also get to watch the best pull it off. And I think that in those moments of watching those veterans and those winners seal the game for us, I learned how to seal a game, and I learned how to win in those moments. And so there is valuable experience for somebody like Olivia Moultrie, who is starting this game, gets pulled off at halftime, and then watches Lindsay Horan. Olivia Moultrie has watched Lindsay Horan a lot, but I'm sure every time she's exposed to another example, she is learning and picking things up. And I feel that's got to be valuable experience too.
That's a great way of looking at it. It's a teaching moment for those players as well. I love that, Sam. I really like that.
All right. Well, this is bringing us to the ups and downs of the first 2 matches. We're going to start with the ups. Becky, Emma's and Emily's. Let's talk about it really quick. Sure. Emily Sams, Emily Sonnet, Emily Fox, Emma Sears, Emma Hayes.
That's a lot of M's.
The Emily's are an up. All these people are crushing it. Emily Sams, who, by the way, got a gold medal at the Olympics without having a cap yet, by some strange turn of events where she dressed for a game but hadn't played yet, so then got a medal in the ceremony, which is incredible. She got her first cap last night. I thought she did a good job. She played part of the game in a 3-back. She had some isolated attacks coming at her, and she contained them as a center back. What do you like about Emily Sams?
I love her composure. I think she's great in the 1v1 duels, as we saw against Iceland. And then when she wins the ball back, her ability to stay composed and connect that pass, I really like about her game.
Yeah, has been a huge part of Orlando's success in the NWSL this season. So it really came as no surprise to see her get called into the national team earlier this summer. Emily Sonnet got her 100th cap last week. Emily Sonnet is having an up, which we love to see. We freaking love Sonnet. Emma Sears, a rookie for Racing Louisville, got her first goal in her first cap. And Becky, obviously everybody's like, Emma Sears, oh my God, look at her, here she is. We read that Emma Sears took about 9 months off from soccer after her senior year in college, only to come back 6 matches into the season during her 5th year. And then she got drafted by Louisville, and now she has a cap and a goal with the U.S. Women's National Team. What a crazy story.
That is absolutely crazy. And just goes to show that everyone's journey is so, so different. And it doesn't matter. Everyone can reach the goal that you've set for yourself. It's just some journeys are more wild than others.
Some journeys are more wild than others. Emma Sears, I am excited to see more from her. And then we have Emma Hayes, now 12 matches unbeaten as the head coach of the U.S. Women's National Team. Another big up for us, big up for Emma Hayes. And you know what? This is bringing us to our Olipop gut check of the week, which I'm really excited about this time. Which Emma or Emily is having the biggest up right now? We've got Emily Sams, we've got Emily Sonnet, Emily Fox, Emma Sears, Emma Hayes.
This is you could win by choosing any single one of them. If I have to choose, I'm going to go with Emily Sams because I think it's absolutely wild that you can be a gold medalist without ever having played a minute for the national team. I think that's so awesome. And I think she's going to be one of one. I don't see that ever really happening again.
It is one of those stats that you and I just opened my Olipop, by the way. Orange squeeze is a good one.
Yep.
I'm having a vintage cola. It's one of those stats. It's like folklore. It's like your goal scoring stat, my 0 for 3 stat that we've been talking about in recent weeks. It's an incredible stat. Emily Sams, good proponent, having a big up right now. I'm caught up in this. I'm trying to go Emily Sonnet.
Okay.
I feel like reaching your 100th cap, such a huge milestone, starting both of these games. She's doing so great for Gotham. Won a gold medal this summer. I feel like Emily Sonnet is one of the most resilient and consistent players on the national team in the league. Her stats always speak for themselves, and I'm seeing her get some recognition and some hype, and I'm like, I am here for it. She has deserved recognition and hype for so long. And so I'm going to pump her up one more time in the Olipop gut check of the week. Biggest up, Emily Sonnet.
I love that.
Okay. Thanks, Olipop. We freaking love ya. Let's quickly talk about the downs, Becky. This is a tough one. I do have to say, I thought in Sunday night's game, the midfield looked a little bit disjointed. I think that the positioning occasionally left us vulnerable at the back. I felt like the combination of Corbin Albert and Sam Coffey, at times, they were both getting beat by one pass. And the moments that we saw our back line really vulnerable and kind of getting exposed by Iceland's attack, I felt like the midfield could have provided some more help. We also discussed on the Do It Live with Megan Rapinoe after the game that our midfield isn't really setting play quite the way that we want it to. So I want to zoom out a little bit and ask, what's the job of the midfield in this system on the national team? And are we missing something simple? What's the solution in your eyes?
Well, as someone who's played midfield your entire career, why don't you tell me what you think the job of the midfield is?
I think that's a great idea. I think defensively, the job of the midfield is to really protect the back line, cut off passing angles for the opponent, make tackles, stop transitions, and help us organizationally win the ball as high up the field as we can. Obviously, that's easier said than done, but it comes with organization and communication from the 6 or 6s, and then just a ball-winning instinct mentality. I mean, I was fortunate enough to play much of my midfield career with Julie Ertz, who pretty much handled everything vocally, pretty much snuffed out every attack that came her way. So I think I'm a little bit spoiled in that. And then I think attacking wise, I want the midfield to set more play, like lower on the field. I do think what I'm seeing right now is the center backs setting a lot of play. Our center backs are great on the ball. Our outside backs are great on the ball. I love that we're able to play wide, but I do think that players like Sam Coffey are more than capable of playing awesome passes forward. And when she gets the opportunity to do that, I think she's great at it. But I'm seeing the play being set more from the back line. And I just want to see the midfield be more involved in that. I think it's interesting because it takes a lot of discipline to be in the right positions, be open, be faced up to the field. It's not on for the six to be the playmaker in every game against every opponent. And I feel like that can be frustrating. But I really want to see the final passes, the connection between the backline and the forwards improve a little bit. And I think that with more time and more partnerships to develop, I think we can get there. But I have thought that since the Olympics, it's been a spot where we can improve a little bit.
Yeah, I think I agree with a lot of that. I maybe disagree a little bit as far as like center back setting play. I think the way that the global game is evolving, that's going to happen more and more. And I think it's just so that we're not bringing so many numbers behind the ball that you're then lacking numbers in the attack. Like if you can have center backs that can set play and beat that first line of pressure and then give the ball to midfielders in more advanced positions, I think that just makes the team overall a little bit more dangerous. I agree that the US can find ways to get the ball to the midfielders in advanced positions faster, maybe more efficiently. And so like, I do think they should set play more. I do think it needs to be setting play higher up on the field, though. I would also say on the attack, I think of the midfield as like they're the quarterbacks. So you're setting play, but you're also the tempo keepers. Like the speed of play, the change of tempo, the change of how quick we attack, or if we're going to slow it down a little bit. Like I really rely on the midfielders to be able to do that and to be able to control the game through that tempo. Like if we need to get going, like we're a little stagnant. I want those midfielders to be the ones that are like, all right, here's my movement off the ball. Here's my movement on the ball. I'm taking 2 touches. I'm moving the ball really quickly. And that makes everyone around me better and also have to do the same thing.
That's a really great point about setting the tempo of the attack. I also will say, I think there's such a difference in what you need from your defensive midfielders and your attacking midfielders. Like what we're asking for from Rose Lavelle is so different than what we're asking for from Sam Coffey. And I think somebody like Lindsey Horan does require elements of both to kind of play that 8 position that is asked to play defensively at times and then is also asked to make a lot of runs into the box. The thing I want to see more of, I always say this when Rose is on the field, I want Rose getting the ball faced up. I want Rose getting the ball just in front of the back line, dribbling faced up. I find it so frustrating as a midfielder when our 10s are always like back to goal. And I didn't necessarily see this in the Iceland games, but I think it's a really critical piece of movement and timing to get your 8s and 10s the ball faced up. I want to talk a little bit more about the midfield and like see if we have the solution here. Like if we're going to play with 2 6s, who else is an option? What do you think might be a promising combination? What players in this camp do you think would be good in that spot together?
At a double 6, I love Sam Coffey. Play with her with Portland. I think she's fantastic. I would love to see her paired up with someone like a Hal Hirschfeld, who I think we've seen a little bit of. I think what she's done with the Spirit, her ability, covers a lot of ground. She's physical. She breaks things up. I think she's got great feet. So I could see that as a double pivot. And even Emily Sonnet, who we've obviously loved and talked about, is that I think she's got all the tools in her toolkit to be able to play a double 6 with somebody as well, which we saw a little bit at the 2023 World Cup.
Yeah, the double 6 interests me because even to your point earlier, sometimes I do find it too defensive. Like, I wonder if Sam Coffey and Hal Hirschfeld together would be too defensive. Corbin Albert is continuing to get opportunities in that midfield. Another midfielder we didn't see is Ashley Sanchez. She's having such a great season with the Courage. I would love to see her get some reps in this midfield. I think that Lindsey Horan had a solid 2 games, both games that she was in here. And again, she is a key, like Lindsey Horan's ability to be defensive and attacking is one of the things that sets her apart in a group like this because she is so well-rounded. Something you, me, and Pino were talking about is when we might play a 3-back, we were vulnerable to a few passes if that that partnership in the midfield isn't disciplined enough to maybe hold their shape or get back quick enough or cut off enough passing angles. So I think it's a question of it's a piece of a puzzle in the larger formation of the team, the larger requirements of the team. Our attack is so overloaded with talent in so many ways. And so I just think it's a puzzle that we have a long time to solve. But I'm overall impressed with the talent that we have all over the field.
Yeah, it's like an embarrassment of riches for sure when you think about these players like Sanchez who didn't even get a minute yet and what she's able to do. And I feel like sometimes with the midfield, it's almost like just finding the right combination. It's like you just find the key that unlocks it all. And it could be a player, it could be just a different type of tactic or principle. But I do agree with you. We've got plenty of time to figure that out.
It could also be a subgroup, which would be the relationship between, let's say, your left back, your left forward, and your left-sided midfielder. Like, I think sometimes we think so much about the relationship between the three midfielders that we forget. Let's say Lindsay's playing the 8 kind of on the left. She has a really important relationship with Jenna and Mal. And if that relationship clicks, that can unlock so much. That's something that we really talked about a lot in 2019. So I think you're absolutely right, Becky. I think that continuing to evolve the midfield is only going to make this team stronger. We have so many great pieces. What remains to be seen at this camp? One more game this Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time against Argentina. That game is in Louisville. So far this camp, we've seen some experimentation with lineups and new players. We've been looking for new pairings and relationships. And then we've found that safety valve in the trusted players being able to come on and put the game away. Argentina are perhaps not as much of a threat as Iceland on paper. They are interestingly in the middle of a labor dispute with their federation. Earlier this year, a few players did not go into camp. But regardless of how Argentina stacks up, we are going to see Rose Lavelle's 100th cap. So hopefully she's starting and captaining as the 100th cap celebrator usually does. And hopefully we'll see some of the names we mentioned before and a bit more experimentation from Emma as we round out this window. Becky and Raj are going live immediately after the match because I am going to be at the game in person. So I had to have Raj sub in. So tune into the Women's Game YouTube channel on Wednesday, right at the final whistle around 9 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure to catch that. Do it live. Okay, this weekend, the NWSL playoffs are totally decided. So let's look at who is still in the race. Portland versus Angel City is on Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern on Prime Video. Becky, talk to us.
I mean, it's a hugely important match. We last year had the chance to win the Shield against Angel City at Angel City, and we got our butts kicked. And so there's a little bit of let's right the wrongs of the past in this game, but there's also so much to play for. Destiny is in our hands. If we tie or win, we are in the playoffs. Even if we lose, there are different scenarios that we can still make it in, but you just never want to leave it to fate or to other people's hands, especially in the NWSL, because you never know who's going to beat who. And so, yeah, we've got everything to play for this Friday.
Yeah, it's kind of like your playoff kind of starts now.
Well, it's kind of started 4 games ago, to be honest, when there were only 2 spots left and, we got that great win against Orlando. So we're like, okay, that's a huge 3 points. And then the teams around us were losing points or dropping points. And then we could have done it against Louisville in a tie. And of course, heartbreaker set piece goal against us late in the game. And so we've gone through ups and downs already, but we've been feeling like these have been must wins for a while. And I almost think that's an advantage. If we can get ourselves into the playoffs, we'll have already been in playoff mentality for weeks now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, reluctantly, Becky, I am pulling for you because you're my friend and I do want to see Portland in the playoffs. Portland have such a rich history of success in this league that you always just want the best teams and the best clubs to be in there. And I do think you guys deserve to be in there despite your roller coaster of a year. So I'll be watching the game and I will be kind of cheering for the Thorns, which is literally sounds so crazy coming out of my mouth. Another big game, Houston versus Bay FC. That's Saturday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. Bay FC, the expansion team, new to the league this year, is traveling to Houston to attempt to make the playoffs in their first year of existence, which would be such a huge feat. I think they can do it. Houston have been down and out all season after drama with their coaching staff. Lots of things have been going on at Houston. Becky, what do you think are Bay's chances here?
I think Bay has every chance of making it. I think they've got a talented roster. I think bringing in Abby Dahlkemper has been kind of a momentum changer for them, which is great. I also think that you can't count out Houston. I watched their game against San Diego when they beat San Diego at San Diego's place, and I was really impressed with their fight and their performance. And so you have to be wary. You really have to be wary of the teams that have nothing to lose.
Yeah, you're so right. It'll be a good one. Bay's fate is also in their own hands. If they get the win, they're in playoffs. That leaves the third game that could still let Louisville take one of those final spots into the playoff push. That's San Diego versus Louisville, Sunday at 5:30 p.m. So by the time this game arrives, if Portland and Bay have done their jobs, won their games, sealed their fates, cut off playoffs to Louisville could already be out of the hunt. So it's out of Louisville's hands. But a loss from either Portland or Bay could open the door for Louisville, who on 28 points could tie either team on points with 31. And then the hunt would be for goal differential. And we know that with goal differential, anything could happen. Somebody could win their game 11-0. I have no idea. Louisville holds the differential on Bay already. So again, if Bay lose and Louisville win, Louisville would be in. If Portland lose, which you're not planning on losing, right, Becky?
We're not planning on that.
Then Louisville would need to clear the remaining differential. Right now, Louisville are behind Portland by 3 goals. So that would be a minimum of 2 in the event of a Portland loss, depending on how many goals Portland loses by. It's a numbers game, everybody. Becky, are you feeling the pressure of a game like this? Are you thinking about goal differential, or are you just like, we have one job?
We have one job, and that is to win. And if it's a tie, okay. But you can't go into a game being like, okay, we need to win by this many, or if we lose, we can't lose by more than 2 or 3. Like, if you get into your head, you start thinking stuff like that, you just lose control of the game. And so really it's just, what can we do? This is how we can do it. Let's focus on that and let the chips fall where they may. Let's get our job done first and foremost.
Yeah, I also think, if you tie, you're in.
Yes.
So I also think it's like, let's have a performance that sets us up to feel good for playoffs. Let's just play really well, get on a winning streak. We have one job and it's to win. I only remember very fuzzy details. This was 2016. It was a very long time ago, but we snuck our way right into playoffs for that Cinderella season that we then went on to win the whole thing. And I do think that can be a trend. Gotham last year snuck their way into playoffs. They got the last spot. They went on to win the whole thing. I think playoffs are all about form in the moment and momentum. And you could be the best team all season. And if you're just for whatever reason not feeling it when it comes to be crunch time, that's kind of what makes playoffs so exciting and different from the regular season.
And I also think that making it to the playoffs, I think about all those teams that are out of contention and then just kind of want to ruin the party because misery loves company. And I know when I was playing with FC Casey, I think it was 2017 or 2018, we traveled to Seattle and Seattle still had a shot of making playoffs. And we had nothing to play for except for pride. But we just were let's just ruin Seattle's day. And probably had one of the best games of our entire season. And I think we won 1-0 and just completely knocked Seattle's chances out the door.
Pettiness is very powerful.
So petty.
So powerful. Okay, at the top of the table, the teams are locked in, though the final standings are still up for grabs. So both Spirit and Gotham are on 53 points, with Kansas City on 52. Any results here would shift who gets the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th seeds. North Carolina are locked in on the 5th seed, Chicago on 6th. Chicago need to win to keep that slot, or else it could go to Portland or Bay. But the quarterfinal games are scheduled in Orlando, Washington, D.C., Kansas City, and New York, New Jersey, Gotham Bats. And then just the opponents need to be slotted into those spots. So we'll have the full schedule after this weekend, and there is a ton to play for. Okay, we're going to get into our news and notes section here. The Chicago Red Stars have announced that next season they're rebranding to the Chicago Stars. Quite the reception on Twitter, again, with this rebrand, Becky. I'm curious, as an active NWSL player, do the players care about a rebrand? What are your thoughts on clubs rebranding?
I have never gone through a rebrand, and so I don't really think that much about it. But then if you've played for a club that historically has been that name for a while, and you've got supporters groups and the community that like really knows you as that name, it might be a little jarring to all of a sudden have that change. And with the Red Stars, like they've been the Red Stars from the get. And I love that it represents Chicago. You know, it's like it's on their Chicago city flag. The Stars represent something. And I feel like any team could be the Stars. Like it could be the St. Louis Stars or the Dallas Stars. Like there are a lot of stars that already exist out there. And so I feel like they might be losing a little bit of their identity. And that's kind of sad.
That is kind of sad. I totally hear you on that. I agree that fans and players alike grow attached to the name. And so to change it, I think the key here is like, do you understand why? Is there enough trust between the two parties that you can at least appreciate and understand why it would be getting changed, why the brand would be going in a different direction? This was at more big news in the team name category recently this month. It feels like there's lots of teams going through some sort of turmoil with their name, and I find it interesting. But with new ownership, I think comes change, and hopefully a lot of that changes in a good direction. Okay, moving on. The first ever Summer Cup final was decided. Kansas City beat Gotham 2-0. Who scored a brace, Becky? I'll give you 3 guesses.
Chewinga, and probably Chewinga.
Yeah. Temwa Chewinga is just death taxes in Temwa Chewinga. I mean,
her finishing those goals, they were very similar. Both Lola Bonta.
They were like both chips.
Both little chips, little dinks. I was like, those are fantastic finishes.
I know. And you're right to point out, especially I think it was the first goal, Lola Bonta played her in one touch in behind. An incredible assist, incredible vision from Lola Bonta. I will add that Gotham had a depleted lineup. So many of their internationals are away for the FIFA window right now. But Kansas City looked great. They won, and they have another trophy in their freaking trophy shelf locker room area.
Display case.
Whatever it is. There were a couple of interesting international friendlies I wanted to touch on their scorelines. Germany beat England 4-3. And then Spain and Canada tied 1-1.
Yeah, I talked to Jess Fleming a little bit. She's a Canadian that plays on the Thorns, and she loves tiki-taka. Like we'll just have arguments over the merits and the disadvantages of tiki-taka.
Tell us what tiki-taka is, please.
It is something that like was really started and founded in Spain. It's a type of style where short, sharp passes, possession retention is like huge, movement off the ball, but it's really like breaking a team down by like 1,000 cuts. And so Jess loves that style of play. I am a Real Madrid fan. She's a Barcelona fan. And so we will argue back and forth about the styles of play that our favorite teams play. And I go, so are you still a big fan of tiki-taka after you had to defend for about 85 minutes of that game? And she's like, yeah, I still really admire tiki-taka. I'm just really tired.
It takes a really big person to play against Spain and go, yeah, I still admire it.
Yeah. And then I'm arguing and I'm like, well, you still tied the game. So
True.
Like, that's a good result for you guys.
Yeah, that is a great result for Canada. Canada is always just sneakily just
good. Yes. And I hate saying that. I got to like wash my mouth out with soap now.
Well, that's how I feel, Becky, after kind of saying that I was going to cheer for the Thorns. I like kind of think I'm going to take it back.
Yeah, okay. Well,
I've had this like voice in my head this whole time, like terrorizing me, being like, did you actually just say that?
Are people actually going to hear that?
Okay, in other news, the U17 World Cup is currently heading into the semifinals, and the USA are still in the tournament. They're going to play this Wednesday at 7 p.m., which is, unfortunately for everybody, at the exact same time as the U.S. women's national team, senior team. But the 17s are playing North Korea, who won the U20 World Cup just a few weeks ago. And there's a few NWSL players on this U17 team, believe it or not, everybody. Kennedy Fuller of Angel City, Melanie Barsenius of the San Diego Wave, along with a few others, are featuring in this squad and doing a really great job playing for their youth national team. So I hope they win.
Yeah, let's go US.
I know. All right, let's go to the inbox. We got an email from Sarah that asks, what's your favorite Halloween candy and why?
Oh, man, this is so lame. I don't really like candy that much. And so if I had to choose, I know, if I had to choose, I would go with the bite-sized Snickers. And then I would put them in the freezer so that they're really cold when I eat them.
Okay. I mean, it's a good choice. I am going to need everybody to come for Becky in the comments. Like, that was such a crazy response thing to say. Sarah, I hope you're not too offended. Like, Becky, I don't know. You just built a bridge between us. My favorite Halloween candy is Reese's, obviously. If I can get my hands on a Reese's pumpkin or like a Reese's ghost or a Reese's bat or whatever they are, yes. But when I was trick-or-treating, I would always just get all Reese's. And like, I also like Kit Kats. But like, now as an adult, I do feel like Reese's are superior to Kit Kats.
So not to like burst your bubble or anything, but isn't it Reese's, not Reese's? Because it's Reese's Pieces. It's not Reese's Pieces.
You don't even like candy, Becky.
I know, but I also like things to be pronounced correctly. So
it's Reese's?
I mean, let's also ask the people in the comments.
I would call them Reese's Pieces.
I got nothing to say to that.
Okay, everybody, you let us know. Are you going to trust the person who eats a lot of Reese's Pieces and Reese's products? Or are you going to trust the person who admittedly doesn't even like candy and has to put it in the freezer so she can't taste it? I don't know. I actually would. I'm not even like saying this to be stubborn. Like, I have called them Reese's Pieces my entire life. Okay,
maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think you are.
Very likely
I'm just like a little embarrassed, but like, I think it's better that they're Reese's Pieces.
Okay.
It's more fun.
All right.
Okay. Well, if you want to cause more fights in between me and Becky that create awkward tension on this podcast, send us an email at womensgamemib@menandblazers.com. We would love to hear from you. Maybe you can save our friendship. Well, you know what else could save our friendship, Becky, is a good vibe. I would love at the end of this beautiful, beautiful episode to leave our listeners with a good vibe.
My good vibe after having done these live reactions with you, Sammy, which is always a good vibe, is that I love that we are talking about all these milestones that these players are having. And the 100 caps with, Sonnet just got hers. Mal, we celebrated. You're going to be there to celebrate with Rose. I also like the debuts. Like, I think about how much I wanted to be on the women's national team and never, ever thinking it was going to happen. And the disbelief of getting my first email and call in, the disbelief of playing in my first game and like touching your dream and like living your dream, even if it's for that moment. And so that's my good vibe, is just like celebrating these people and appreciating like this is a dream come true for a lot of them.
Oh, that is really beautiful, Becky. I actually have a follow-up question, believe it or not, because I feel the same way. Like, we revere the national team so much that getting to be on it is kind of like, wait, me? Like, what do you mean? And I just want to know, like, why? Like, what is it about the U.S. women's national team that is so special and sacred to us?
I have to go back to watching the 1999 Women's World Cup. It was hosted in the States. I got to go to a game in Chicago. Watching with my dad the final at the Rose Bowl, 80,000 plus, Christine Lilly clearing the ball off the line, Brandi Chastain with a game-winning PK, and just the sheer joy and jubilation of those women on the field, and just how crazy the country went about women's soccer. And I was like, I need to know what that feels like. I need to know what that joy feels like. I need to know what it is to have people like celebrate what you do and be like so crazed for it. And I think that's why I revered them. It was just they did so much for the sport. I wanted to be a part of that, part of the journey, part of the history.
I love that. I don't think that I can compete with that as a good vibe. So I will just say a quick follow-up shout out to everybody who made their debuts. Emma Sears, Emily Sams, Hal Hirschfeld, and Yasmin Ryan. A huge congratulations from both Becky and I. What an incredible accomplishment. I hope you enjoy it. I hope it's so special. Okay, those are good vibes. And that is it for this week's episode of Good Vibes FC. I hope you're subscribed to this podcast feed. If not, subscribe right now. You candy corn. It's freaking Halloween. This podcast is available wherever you listen to podcasts, also on the Women's Game YouTube channel. You can also follow along with us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Threads at Women's Game MIB. Coming up later this week, we have a really awesome interview with Sid LaRue of Angel City. We're talking about how the balancing act of being a mom and a professional soccer player, how difficult that is in the league. And Sid obviously has such incredible insights about that. So it's a really, really special and incredible interview. And I can't wait for everybody to hear it. Also, don't forget to watch Becky and Raj on the Women's Game YouTube channel on a live reaction show after the USA versus Argentina match on Wednesday, which the game is at 7 p.m. Eastern time. They're going to go live right at the final whistle, about 9 p.m. Eastern time. All right, I've said my piece, everybody. Goodbye.
I'm Becky Sauerbrunn.
And I'm Sam Yoas. This is Good Vibes FC. We love you. Bye. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.